brings you the best in progressive talk radio on Sirius XM Progress. Start your day with Mornings with Zerlina.
With me, Zerlina Maxwell.
Get your marching orders from Michelangelo Signorilli.
I do think we've made progress.
Dive deep into the issues with Dean Ovidala. This is where we stand. And challenge your thinking on Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang.
I'm really proud of my country.
Plus Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman. To hear Sirius XM Progress, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM. We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C podcast. License number 0181486.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, the people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood in them there hills, California, on a beautiful August 28th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. I want to say, Nam Yo Rinkeyo, Nam Yo Rinkeyo, Nam Yo Rinkeyo. Being so many things to be grateful for. So many things to be grateful for at the state capitol today in beautiful California, the land of the free and the home of the brave. There were some assembly meetings that were held today on some bills for reparations and other bills as well. We got through with Senate Bill 1050, and I'll talk more about that later. That passed 56-0. Senate Bill 1331 and 1403. They're still having some time to talk about those bills. Also got some NFL football, some teams that decided to cut down their players. Over 1,000 men lost their jobs with the NFL yesterday. I said over 1,000 men lost their job with the NFL yesterday, and some people, they think they just want to be the next football player. It's a tough business. It's like musical chairs. You only have so many chairs available. There's 1,500 jobs available, or 1,500 chairs available, and then there's about 3,000 guys trying to sit in those 1,500 chairs. It doesn't work out for everybody, but it does work out for those who are fortunate enough. I got some things I want to talk about today that happened at the state capitol in beautiful California, and all's fair when people get to vote. You got to count all the votes. I love when people say we got to count all the votes because that's important. that we count all the votes. I want to make sure I do my part with Big C Sports Podcast to make sure I count all the votes. I want to say I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man. I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all have more laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play Curry for 3. Yes! In the hole in your life. Have you ever? I love doing that. Do you believe in miracles? Of course, when Steph Curry's doing his thing, a lot of his shots are like miracles. There's a podcast crew that got $100 million, and I don't know why, but I do know why. It's like the Homestead Act for broadcasters and podcasters. The Homestead Act for podcasters. Google the Homestead Act if that makes sense to you. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. Number 10, I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew, back in the days of Salem Media. And now we have people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. Now we have people who miss practice. All's fair in love and war. But what I won't miss is the opportunity to give praise and pay homage to our Veterans Crisis Hotline, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. And the show is good when somebody's leaning back. I keep talking about $100 million. $100 million. And they gave it to the wrong podcasters. Those guys are not even funny. I'm not even being a joke. This is people saying, what? They won? Those guys are not funny. It's the same old dry toast. And some people like dry toast to the tune of $100 million. It's called the Homestead Act for podcasters. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. And that's what I've been told by other people. They said, they must be out of their fucking minds. I said, no, it's just the Homestead Act for podcasters, $100 million. And they're not even funny. It's like dry toast. All's fair in love and war. That's my story. And I'm sticking with it. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And that's worth $100 million. Not the other guys that get that money. It's like a highway robbery. I thought that Jesse James was over. Now he's still around in the world of podcasts. Hey, I deserve $200 million if they get $100 million. What a joke. What a joke. The Homestead Act is live in full effect. It's live in full effect. But I got more health, and that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I do want to say so many great things happening when it comes to the world of sports. And I know everybody has their own opinion about things that matter. They say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And I believe in that. And I know no matter what you think about what I'm saying, when you have people give you their peace of mind, fuck, are the audio fucking mind? You know what's funny? I think if you have the chance to vote, and you vote for what you want, you got to fight for your right to party. But a lot of times people are given the opportunity in the world of the homestead for podcasters to do things that may have not been done before, and that's okay. I wish everybody nothing but the best, but there are times when you realize, are you out of your fucking mind? Because some people get that kind of money and they're not even that funny. But I will say, there's a crew of people out there that got some opportunity to get $100 million. And it's free enterprise. Do whatever you can with free enterprise. Make the most of it. You do the best you can. You make the most of it. That's what you do. But when you have people telling me, can you believe that two brothers signed $100 million? And I listened to their show, and it's not even funny. I almost had to turn it off in midstream because it wasn't that fun. And that was told to me by somebody who said, can you believe they just giving that kind of money away? But $100 million, it makes no sense. A 3-year pact gives some good old boys $100 million. And when you listen to it, it's not funny. It doesn't even hold your attention. They're kicking off a rich new deal with a company that even carries Big C Sports and has exclusive ad sales and distribution rights to the program. That's not funny at all. It's like the Homestead Act for good old boys. That's a fact. There's so many other people out there that are doing their things, that produce the show, direct the topics, do a lot of things. But this is a crazy world that we live in. The beginning of the next NFL season, some good old boys getting $100 million on a 3-year deal, and they're not funny. They don't bring you anything new other than, man, do you think this guy's going to be a good player this year? Or I don't know, man. What do you think, Joe? Well, I think he's going to have the chance to set some records and help his team become a better football team. He's definitely a team player. Yeah, but what do you think it's going to do for the fan base? Well, I think they're going to... I mean, what the... Lightning strike! I said lightning strike! Oh, Fred Lamore. Someone said, don't be jealous. I'm not jealous. I'm just curious. I'm not jealous. I'm just perturbed. If that's worth $100 million, I'm worth $1 billion. Lightning strike. $1 billion. Maybe I'll get that in the Powerball tonight. Oh, Fred Lamore. I tell you, y'all gonna make somebody lose their mind. My goodness. It's amazing how in life you have so many great causes that are on display at the state capitol in California today. And there was actually a vote on the floor that someone who's considered an illegal immigrant could get unemployment benefits as an illegal immigrant. And would you believe it passed? And they're still putting 1331 and 1403. They're going to table it. It's going to pass before the end of this week. We got tonight, Thursday, and Friday for Governor Gavin Newsom to sign it. And that's for people who are here legally. I said that's for people who are here illegally. They tabled it. The Assembly tabled it today. But the people who are here illegally saying they have a right to unemployment benefits. Are you out of your fucking mind? Yeah, those things happen. Sometimes you got to be there to see it. That's my story, and I'm taking with it. But I love doing Big C Sports Podcast. I know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to thank a lot of good people. You people that went to the state capitol today to watch the passage of some bills. A lot of good things passed in the state of California, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Even though I could not speak, we were there watching the people do their thing with the votes. So everybody has a right to vote in this country. If you don't vote, then don't get upset. But you got to realize there are times where you just got to push a little bit harder. And as a people, we are accustomed to that. But you have descendants of child slavery. And, my show might be a little bit different today. And I'm probably going to make it a little bit different. I'm going to pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because that was put together by some powerful people. And one of those 3 bills got through today. And I'm going to tell you what they passed through with a 56-0 vote. It's Senate Bill 1050, provides restitution and compensation for eligible residents whose property was taken unjustly by certain state actions in California. Well, that passed 56 yeas and 0 nays. So good job, God is watching. At the same time, we had there's some other Senate bills that we're still trying to get pushed through, and they still have a couple of days to get that done. It might even happen tonight. Senate Bill 1403 creates a state agency to help residents verify eligibility and carry out reparations policies. Well, they're still discussing that. They tried to make some amendments to that, and Senator Bradford said no. They already have the task force findings for over a year now. And also, Senate Bill 1331, it creates a state fund to support current and future reparations fundings. And that right there, they're still trying to negotiate on that. However, I said however, a bill for illegal aliens to get unemployment, it passed. What? Are you out of your fucking mind? They didn't have to table that. Think about that when you go out and vote. I'm going to say it again. A bill to make sure that illegal aliens people who came to the state illegally could get unemployment benefits. It passed. What? Are you out of your fucking mind? And then the bill for the descendants of child slavery that has been part of the California Reparations Task Force. They've been talking about it for many, many moons now. And it may still go through the night. Senate Bill 1403 creates a state agency to help residents verify eligibility and carry out reparations policies. You got to realize that because they tabled that, and it still may go through the night. They have until Friday to get that done. I believe even until Saturday to get it done. And then Senate Bill 1331 creates a state fund to support current and future reparations funding. They're tabling that. They're trying to make some last minute changes to that. Senator Bradford standing strong that justice will happen for the descendants of child slavery. But I'll say again, a bill that allows illegal immigrants to get unemployment. It passed. Are you out of your fucking mind? So much for being a registered voter and a legal citizen and coming here legally in California. Well, that's what happened down there with some good old boys voted. So if you can be illegally here in the United States and get unemployment benefits, you can't tell me that the descendants of child slavery who could not even file for unemployment. Slaves could not file for unemployment. They were raped. They were worked from cradle to grave, beaten, raped, lynched, sold off, without even getting one penny. And now we have people standing in the state capitol saying, petitioning for people who are here illegally to get unemployment benefits. Are you out of your fucking mind? Well, I still believe that things are coming. Senate Bill 1050, that got through, and it was a 56-0 vote. Yays for that. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But there's a lot of great people. Chris Lodges actually brought a lot of that information out, and he was there at the Capitol. Double O was there with economics awareness talks, and Big C was there, of course, the Big C Sports Podcast coming to you right now. C-Jack was there with a lot of wonderful people, Kim Mims and Darlene Krumdev. Also, Wang Dung was there, Marvell was there, and there are a lot of other people. That Lynette was there with Diffusion Consulting Services. She was there, and there's a lot of great people. Tony Harvey was there from the Black Media. Obviously, there's a lot of talk going on about what's going on in California, and I say it's just like anything else. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It takes a little bit longer for things to come to fruition, and that's taking a little bit longer for some people that say they wanted to make some last-minute changes to that bill. I don't know what it is, but I believe that Senator Bradford is going to win out because justice. What did Dr. Martin Luther King say? He said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It bends towards justice. And speaking of that, I want to do my part to always bring justice and light to what happened with the California Reparations and the task force. I really do appreciate so many wonderful things that I love talking about when I do my talk on Big C Sports Podcast. So I'm hopeful that a lot of things are going to be ferreted out today, and hopefully, just hopefully, we'll have a lot of good things to happen by the time we're finished watching what goes on with Big C Sports. I'm going to take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right, I'm back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all across the universe. And streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Well, I just want to tell you, also being down at the state capital, beautiful state of California, the Golden State, California legislators passing bills and honoring colleagues. As Senator Roger Nillo looked over paperwork during the floor session at the state capitol in Sacramento, California. And you know, you think about things that happened today. California legislators, they're slammed trying to get through hundreds of bills before the clock strikes midnight on Saturday. They still have about 700 bills to consider after Tuesday, and so now we're at Wednesday, but they're not too busy for departing colleagues to give them some praise, and quite a few of them, of the 120 legislators, 34 are either terming out, are running for other offices, or just stepping aside, and they could also be looking for jobs lobbying at the same time. Really do appreciate that. As Cal Matters, Seema Kamal reports Assembly wrapped up its floor session early for an intimate reception on Tuesday evening at the state capital of California to say their goodbyes. And these people are doing their best to pass bills to make life better for the constituents in California. I do want to give a special shout out to someone that I just met today, Simeon Grant, the Chief of Staff. Dr. Corey A. Jackson, Assembly member of the 16th District, but Simeon Grant, the Chief of Staff in California, met him today. Going to be having some more conversations with him coming up later in this month. That's what I'm looking for. All right, maybe next month, because there's a lot going on this week. We're at the 28th of August. Besides the reception, there have been hours of sometimes tearful tributes, and also some people just having a good time during the floor session last week and this week. The exodus is partly due to a historically large class of legislators elected in 2012 who are now hitting a 12-year term limit, and there was another great resignation due to redistricting as well as term limits and other political opportunities. So at the same time with Big C Sports Podcast, I love being there. I want to give them all praise. I say give them praise, praise, praise. A lot of good lawmakers doing what they can to just pass laws that make it easier for a lot of people to get what they want in life. You got to fight for a lot of things. There's a pharmacy fight, a bill to rein in pharmacy benefit managers who are liaisons between health, insurance companies, and drug makers is facing strong opposition from major pharmaceutical retailers, including CVS. Caremark writes that Cal Matters health reporter is also talking about a bill co-sponsored by the California Pharmacists Association would require these managers to disclose the prices and discounts negotiated with drug companies and would direct all discounts to be passed on to insurance plans. And the author of the bill, Democratic Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, said that you don't find it on the show that was given $100 million to talk about who won a game, who's bigger, stronger, and faster. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. With Big C Sports Podcast, it has meat you can eat on. It's not fluff. The industry stakeholders warn that new rules could increase health premiums for Californians by $1.7 billion in the first year and $20 billion over 10 years. Undocumented students, Cal Matters is keeping track of the key bills heading to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk, including one bill that allowed undocumented students to work on campus at public colleges. As Cal Matters higher education reporter talked about, due to their status, these students cannot receive federal aid and loans shutting them out of funds to pay for tuition, rent, and other necessities. A handful of Republicans voted against the bill. While the state's college systems do not officially oppose the measure, they have raised concerns about potentially violating federal law, which could jeopardize billions of dollars tied up in federal contracts. You got to realize that. We're asking for reparations for the descendants of child slavery, and they're tabling that. Again, we have until Saturday midnight to get that past 1331 and 1403. But when you think about it, in the effort for people to become legal citizens of the United States, there are legislators fighting for people who are not here legally to get money and also unemployment benefits. What's the benefit of becoming legalized if you get these benefits if you're illegal? Just a thought. Just a thought. You learn a lot on Big C Sports Podcast. And I believe that we got to put our mind behind it because sports is affected by all of this. Without legislation and bills passed, there are no sports teams. School security. Jenna also reported this week on a proposal to lift state requirements for public school teachers to report to police if a student assaults them. The bill has been amended to keep mandatory police notification if a student assaults or threatens a teacher, but the bill will still allow teachers to decide whether to involve police if a student is using or possessing of drugs, and it would decriminalize willful disturbance by students. Cal Matters is part of keeping track of what's going on. Cal Matters events, the next step, September 12th on the battle over California's groundwater. There's a lot of things that are part of the votes at the state legislature. Another bill waiting Governor Gavin Newsom's verdict is a proposal that would make it easier for cities and counties to set up tiny homes, which have increasingly been used in response to the state's homeless crisis. And then there's more. A bill has no formal opposition, but a similar effort died last year. Groups including National Alliance to End Homelessness and the Western Center on Law and Poverty opposed the measure, arguing that it characterizes tiny homes as a permanent housing, not temporary shelter. So there's more people who are doing whatever they can to adjudicate law. 2 other homeless bills have already been signed into law. On Tuesday, Governor Gavin Newsom announced he had signed Assembly Bill 2835, which makes permanent a provision in a 2022 law requiring hotels and motels and shelter programs to protect residents. He also signed Assembly Bill 3057. And Assembly Bill 3057 was signed by the governor of California. And what that bill calls for, it exempts some accessory dwelling units from certain environmental rules, and that allows local governments to approve more affordable shelter and get that done faster. So there's a lot that happened at the state of California. It's more important than who won a game. This should be given $100 million. $100 million! Because it affects people. Also, as I hit my cough button, as part of our partnership with PBS SoCal, they're seeking a video segment of Marissa's story about how some cities are cracking down on encampments following a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling and an executive order from California Governor Gavin Newsom. There's a lot going on in this country. I want you to hear with your own eyes and ears, while Big C Sports Podcast should be the one getting $100 million.
Homelessness has long been a defining obstacle of Gavin Newsom's career, and it's only gotten worse. California's estimated homeless population now has swelled to more than 181,000. Sparked by a Supreme Court ruling and then further fueled by Newsom's recent executive order, authorities have been given the green light to crack down harder on encampments. As a result, homeless Californians and activists across the state have told CalMatters that enforcement has become more frequent and more aggressive, and they've already feeling the difference. Trey Watson, who lives in a tent in Santa Cruz, says, "We can't hover. We come here, they run us away. We go to any park and they run us away. We go to the Pogonip and they bring bulldozers." Nikki Jones, executive director of the Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness, said they're forcing someone under threat of arrest to pack up and move all their belongings, and people's bodies literally can't handle the physical stress. In Los Angeles, the County Board of Supervisors instead reaffirmed that the county won't use its jails to hold homeless people arrested for camping. But Governor Gavin Newsom's message on homelessness in recent weeks has been clear. The state will no longer tolerate encampments, and cities shouldn't either. While Newsom has provided an influx of money for shelter beds and other services in recent years, his executive order comes with no additional funding. Last year, California's cities and counties reported having just 71,000 shelter beds. They'd need more than twice that to accommodate every homeless Californian. That's led people on the streets to ask, where are we supposed to go? With CalMatters, I'm Marisa Kendall.
Now, when you think about what's happening with the homeless matters in California, that's something the state will try to reckon with. If you're a business owner and you have people sleeping in front of your front door, you can't do business. If you're a homeowner and someone's encamped in front of your home, you can't get into your home. So obviously they have to find a safe place for people to go, and part of that is mental health treatment, and I know they're trying to find a solution for that. And now in Sacramento, California, you got to realize there's so many things that are important in this state. And when you think about the justification of how to help people, you're not going to please everybody. You're just not going to. But they're trying to find a way to do it. But I also want to say, with Big C Sports Podcast and the push for reparations in California budget up to $12 million for reparations bills, a milestone in atoning for its racist legacy. And that's something that they're passed Senate Bill 1050 and SB 1331 and 1403. They're still waiting for that vote to come in. It's passed with the first rounds, now it's in the third round. So the plans for reparations legislation under budget signed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, marking a milestone in the state's efforts to atone for a legacy of racism and discrimination against African Americans in California this year. The state legislature is weighing proposals to issue a formal apology that Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer spoke about on Big C Sports Podcast just last Friday, and then to issue a formal apology for California's role in perpetuating discrimination against African Americans, to create an agency to administer reparations programs, and to identify families whose property was unjustly seized through eminent domain. And the funding comes after federal reparations efforts have been stalled for decades by people who are anti-equality. Now, I just told you a bill passed that ensures that illegal or undocumented aliens can get money from unemployment. But they're still trying to vote on reparations. So often say the budget is a reflection of our values and our priorities. So the fact that there's any money for reparations should be a reason for celebrating. That State Senator Stephen Bradford, a Los Angeles area Democrat, noted that he hoped the allocation would be larger, but it's a stepping point, and they're still putting that where they can focus on new things for descendants of child slavery. No state has gotten further along in its consideration for reparations proposals for African American residents than California, but some have made significant strides. Illinois and New York passed laws in recent years to study reparations proposals for African Americans, and then Florida passed a law in 1990 creating a college scholarship fund for descendants of African American residents who were killed in a 1923 massacre initiated by the white mob. But I got to tell you, they're not studying anything when it comes to immigrants getting 20% down payments for housing with zero mortgage payments. They're not studying that. When it comes to descendants of child slavery, they still want to table some matters. And I know it's going to pass because it's passed so far. For whatever reason, it's called politics. Now, they're not asking for illegal African Americans who are here illegally to get reparations. They're asking for descendants whose ancestry were denied opportunities to get reparations. That's right now, they're still having that conversation. But if you're illegal and you come to this country, they've already passed. They just got to have the governor sign it that you can get unemployment benefits if you're here illegally. How does that make sense? Doesn't make any sense to me. But that's why they have politics, and people have a right to vote for politics. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, I have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, Resource Development Consultant, Inc., in conjunction with the law offices of Scott Thibodeau and Law Office of Attorney George Jones, The Missing Link, Long-Term Care Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience, helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare, and you are taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other states, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and tell them Big C sent you our promise to you, specialized to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medication, medical equipment costs, and more. Not only that, protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. They can take between 10 and 40% of your assets. If you don't have a trust, a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Give that some praise, but I'm not done yet. Not only that, I tell you, there's so much going on in the world of sports. I do believe that we got to use the force. Like Darth Vader said, he wants to use the force because that force is necessary and you got to use it. That's my story that's thinking with it. I'm a Trekkie, and I love Star Wars and Star Trek at the same time. asset protection, insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal, planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid, and attendance. So what does a trust protect? It protects your fixed assets, your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market account, certificates of deposit, life insurance with the cash values, your fixed indexed annuities. It also protects your variable assets. What are variable assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. Your real estate, your qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, and other investments. Avoid capital gains. Let's say you buy a house for $100,000, and 1 year later that house appreciates to $1 million. That's a $900,000 capital gains. You avoid that with a trust. Over 3 decades of experience. Attention business owners. You got to find out your other options to protect. But your insurance does not cover 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And when you reach out to them, tell them Big C sent you. Now I want to tell you, I talked about the budget in California for reparations. I talked about some bills that have passed through legislation, and they're still pushing on 1331, 1403. They've already passed Senate Bill 1050 with a 56-0 vote. But I want to tell you with the RDC team, I want to offer this to you because it's important to protect our assets. And that's part of what was ruled on in California today with Senate Bill 1050. Eminent domain, land that was illegally taken. I want to also say with the RDC team, it's important to know that we have some great endorsements. And that's part of why you should stand behind what I'm telling you. Most people don't give you their endorsements, but the RDC team with Big C Sports, I do. We have the endorsement of the late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors and led the change in California's nursing homes. He served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. He was the CEO of California's Association of Health Facilities. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, the late Robert Carlson, the top legal counsel for CalPERS, he endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. George Jones, Esquire, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We endorse Mr. Leon Woods, resource development consulting, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. But not only that, we have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. Not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, been doing this thing over 34 years. We have Mr. Alex De La Cruz, the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charles DeCurry. You're talking about Charles DeCurry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, also owner of Big C Sports Podcast, and also business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, you have Double O, the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, consultant with the RDC team, has her own economic awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on Access Sacramento. She endorses the RDC team. You got to give it all praise. I say give it praise, because the mind is a temple within the waist. And before I get into a little bit of sports, you can't tell me you haven't learned more in listening to Big C Sports than you heard on the show that was given $100 million to talk about nothing. Nothing but nothing. Doesn't benefit anybody. Are you out of your fucking mind? You need to give Big C that $100 million because I feed the people. God said, if you love me, feed my sheep. Don't be a sheep, if that makes sense to you. I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force because the mind is a trouble within the waist, and all their work and hard efforts was on display today at the state capitol. I want to thank the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber, the Secretary of the great state of California. She worked with California Governor Gavin Newsom. They mandated a task force a few years ago, and they came up with 9 members. They have the chair, Camila Moore. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. Her work is on display today at the state capitol. I want to give praise to Dr. Amy C. Brown, the vice chair, who gave the benediction at the Democratic National Convention. He was also on the Big C Sports Podcast about 3 months ago. I want to give him praise. I want to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. Like Moses, stay strong. Moses in Exodus 10 was talking to God, and God said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said to God, who do I tell him sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. And he went down and did his thing. Well, today, Senator Bradford talking to God. God, how do we get reparations passed? at the state capitol. And God said, go down in there and be strong. And tell him I said, pass reparations. And Senator Bradford said to God, who do I tell him to send me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. How dare you stand in the way of God's word? And I know some people are trying to, but it's not going to prevail because God is a just God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Every mouth shall be condemned. Stay strong, Senator Bradford. Stay strong. I love giving you praise. I want to give praise to council member Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He also appeared on Big C Sports podcast just last Friday. I love giving him praise. And stay strong with Senator Bradford. Stay strong because we're going to get it through. God is a just God. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grill. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. She also specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, also professor at California, Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force, and descendants of Japanese Americans that were interned in the internment camps and his ancestors got reparations. And that's what's going to happen today for descendants of chattel slavery. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. You can't tell me that's more valuable than a show of two football players giving $100 million for what? God said, if you love me, feed my sheep. Big C Sports is feeding sheep. I know Dr. King said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I want you to hear him in his own words, why we deserve reparations to pass today.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America, and it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Reparations at last! Reparations at last! Thank God Almighty! Reparations at last! That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love bringing it to you on Big C Sports Podcast, and that's worth $100 million. You know it's true. You just got the gist of each on the Big C Sports Podcast, but some of those little boys out there, they're talking about nothing but nothing. All's fair in love and war. You get what you get. You give God praise. You give God praise. Right now, we have a lot of things happening in the state of California that affect a lot of people. Good people. You people. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to talk about some NFL football, the cuts in 2024. Some major moves happened on Tuesday. Rosters cut down day. Over 1,000 people lost their jobs. Decision day has officially come and gone in the NFL by 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. A lot of good boys, they had to find something else to do with their time. All 32 teams had to reduce their rosters to 53 players, and the cut-down deadline surely proved painful for a lot of guys throughout the league. In long shot, rookies and established veterans were dealt significant setbacks as they try to keep pushing for their football fortunes. But for others, the day might serve as a realization of a dream that they were included in, and now they're off the roster. It's a tough day for a lot of players. A rundown of some of the players. The Denver Broncos, they had roster cuts by the name of Tim Patrick, Samaje Perine, both were dropped. No trades materialized from the Denver Broncos, leading into the roster cuts deadline, leaving the team to cut wide receiver Tim Patrick and running back Samaje Perine. All's fair in love and war. It's a tough day for some NFL football players. Patrick had been trying to make his way back after suffering season-ending injuries in each of the last 2 years. Perine averaged about 4.5 yards per carry and had 50 catches last season, but was stuck behind Javonte Williams and also Jaleel McLaughlin, and then rookie Audric Estime in the backfield. According to a lot of the players, he was someone they thought was going to make the team. But at the same time, Patrick will be signing with the Detroit Lions as a practice squad player. But it's a tough business. Minnesota Vikings roster cuts. They moved from former first-rounder Louis Sling's disappointing run with the Minnesota Vikings has come to an end. The safety was a 2022 first-round pick out of Georgia, was waived by the team on Tuesday. He suffered a fractured leg in his rookie campaign and logged just 10 defensive snaps in his first 2 seasons. You got to have a backup plan. You got to have a trust that you have your acts together. Football's not for everybody. In the second season, top pick from the Vikings 2022 NFL Draft class to be sent out of Minnesota before the end of his rookie season. You got to look at the Packers also had roster cuts. Running back A.J. Dillon, he's out for this season. The most notable roster move for the Green Bay Packers on Tuesday, it might have been a cut because he's a stalwart of a player, but when you have an injury, the NFL can move you aside like taking your shoes off at the carpet. Running back A.J. Dillon was placed on injured reserve with a neck injury, ending his season, unfortunately for him. I hope he saved a lot of his money. You got to have a trust to protect your assets. Dallas Cowboys. How about those Cowboys? The roster cuts. Deuce Vaughn is safe. One of the most fascinating day 3 figures from the 2023 NFL Draft is staying with his team heading into his second season. Running back Deuce Vaughn was not among the Dallas Cowboys cut on Tuesday. Vaughn out of Kansas State. My goodness. It's either the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat for a lot of players. The Atlanta Falcons roster cuts. Taylor Heineke and Kevin King are out. Atlanta Falcons will be shaking up their quarterback without any further for the time being. Heineke is out as a third-string starter behind Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. So they're going to keep Heineke and Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix is going to start sometime later this year. I just believe that he will, even though Kirk Cousins signed that big contract. But I think Penix is a better player for Atlanta once he learns the system. Heineke, at the same time, he's standing to look in question in the summer after the rivals of the veterans Cousins and number 8 overall pick Michael Penix. I like Penix overall, but he's not going to start until later this year. At the same time, more roster cuts around the NFL. The Los Angeles Chargers, they cut Tony Jefferson, Brendan Rice, both make it through. Brendan Rice, the great Jerry Rice's son. And then 2 of the more high-profile figures on the roster bubble for the Los Angeles Chargers have made it through the initial 53-man group. Veteran safety Tony Jefferson was not among the cuts Tuesday, setting up him to launch his comeback with Jim Harbaugh. The former Baltimore Ravens standout who retired in 2023 was a scouting intern for the organization. I love this team that they're putting together down in Los Angeles for the Chargers. 7th round wide receiver Brandon Rice, son of the great Jerry Rice, also is on the roster, and he's trying to make a name for himself in camp after lasting longer than many expected in the draft. All's fair in Leavenworth. It's a tough business. The Cleveland Browns roster cuts down to 4 men. 4 quarterbacks make 53-man roster group. The Cleveland Browns gained some clarity in their backfield. At the roster cut deadline, running back Donta Foreman was being cut. Among multiple reports, Foreman has signed this offseason for additional depth as Nick Chubb continues to recover from his season with a season-ending knee injury. It's a tough business, the NFL is, but Cleveland should have a pretty good team this year. At the same time, I also want to say Deshaun Watson should have a star season this year. I mean, he had a little bit of rust on him last year, but he went through all the legal junk that he went through 2 years ago. But I think he's someone that's going to really lift that team to Cleveland this year. They got to be able to challenge not only Cincinnati, but Baltimore, and then also the Steelers. Cleveland moves from a speedy receiver after landing one dynamic slot target in Jahan Dotson. The Philadelphia Eagles are moving on from another. The team released wide receiver Paris Campbell, according to multiple reports. It's a tough business. It's tough when you talk about players that did not make it. They got cut. Some will come back to other teams. The Seattle Seahawks, sleepless in Seattle, dropping former second-round pick, are releasing wide receiver D. Eckridge, according to multiple reports. He was a 2021 second-round selection out of Western Michigan. But you know they're sleepless in Seattle. They're going to try to get back to the playoffs this year like they did last year. The LA Rams, they trade team captain and key starter to the Titans. A year in which the Los Angeles Rams defense must replace all-time great defensive tackle, the great Aaron Donald. More changes are still ahead. The Rams are trading starting inside linebacker and team captain Ernest Jones IV to the Tennessee Titans, according to multiple reports. The Rams should have a good team this year. They're not going to challenge the 49ers, but they will challenge Seattle for that second slot, if that makes sense to you. When you think about another great team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, they call it quits for Kadarius Toney after a disappointing error-filled 2023 season. Toney was the team's Kansas City Chief. His time is over. It's a thrill of victory and the agony of defeat after catching a touchdown and had a 65-yard punt return in Super Bowl 57. Toney was expected to play a leading role in the Chiefs' title repeat bid. But you end 1 year, you're out the next year. That's a tough break for him, but hopefully he'll find a landing spot. The Green Bay Packers backup quarterback shuffle continues after acquiring Malik Willis in a trade with the Tennessee Titans. The Green Bay Packers completed the reconfiguration of their quarterback room by waiving Shane Clifford and Michael Pratt on Tuesday. That's Jordan Love's team. He signed that huge contract. I think he's going to have a good year for the Green Bay Packers. Quarterback Desmond Ridder is out in Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals appear to have made their backup quarterback decision, and Clayton Tune is set to be the number 2 starter behind the great Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray can stay healthy, Arizona might finish at the bottom of the NFC West no matter what. The Jaguars roster cut quarterback C.J. Beathard released. The Jacksonville Jaguars 53-man roster is now set, and the team officially made his full cuts by Tuesday. C.J. Beathard, who injured his groin in a preseason contest, is out with Mac Jones on board behind the great Trevor Lawrence. We'll see if Jacksonville can get back to the playoffs this year. Carolina Panthers continued the receiver shakeup by dropping Marshall. The Panthers made wide receiving core, including Terrence Marshall Jr., 2021 second-round pick out of LSU, is being cut, according to multiple sources. They got to find a way to protect their quarterback position and Bryce Young. At the same time, the New England Patriots, they send struggling kicker packing. The New England Patriots are moving on from Chad Ryland, releasing the kicker just 1 year after Bill Belichick selected him in the 4th round, and Bill Belichick's no longer there either. So a lot of changes have happened in that great organization called the New England Patriots. I got to tell you that the Tennessee Titans are parting ways with former first-round pick. The Titans parted ways with cornerback Caleb Farley. It's a thrill of victory in the agony of defeat. The Virginia Tech product was a 22nd overall pick in 2021, but injuries got in the way, and now they decided to look in a different direction. The Commanders of Washington, they nixed wide receiver Martavius Bryant's comeback attempt. He's going to have to find a new place to land, and I hope that he will. The Cowboys cut veteran pass rusher Carl Lawson, but they won't be starting off the year with a veteran pass rusher on the active roster. All's fair and love and war. It's a tough business. The Lions' backup quarterback battle comes into focus. Detroit Lions appear to have made up their minds about their initial backup quarterback outlook, and they're going to trust Jared Goff to try to get them back to the promised land, which was the NFC Championship game. I don't think they'll get there this year, but they more likely will be a playoff team. The Houston Texans, the end trial runs with former first-round pick. Houston Texans are releasing cornerback C.J. Henderson, and Houston's Aaron Wilson reported ending the team's experiment with the former first-rounder. It's a tough business. It's a tough world. What do they say in Disneyland? It's a small world. After all, the Packers make a change at kicker. Anders Charlson, a second-round player out of Auburn, had a shaky rookie season and appears to have lost out in the battle with Greg Joseph. All's fair and love and war. There's more and more happening with NFL players, but that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. The biggest thought for me, Kadarius Toney, wide receiver with the Chiefs, his chances to stick with the two-time defending NFL champions looked iffy, and that was before Kansas City brought back Juju Smith-Schuster on Monday. So he's out. More players I'll talk about tomorrow. Time is short, but I do want to say the bigger thing happened at the state capitol today. State of California still having hope that Senate Bill 1331 and Senate Bill 1403 will get the yay sign, the yay vote, as well as Senate Bill 1050 got the yay vote, 56-0. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone who's loved by somebody else. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents called them Mama and Pop. They were beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. And my great-grandmother, when she's cooking those greens, always saying, go wash your hands before you get these greens. What about the barbecue grill, Grandma? Don't give me no plate. I can eat with my hands. Boy, go wash your hands and get a plate. You're going to burn your hands on that barbecue grill. You know, great-grandma was always right. Love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player. Love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My grandparents, Muddia and Hezekiah, they were beautiful, loving, wonderful people. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. They still help me to this day. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Game Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe, and helping pass reparations now, reparations forever. I love your mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You hear my praise, I always rise and shine, and you hear my praise. I always say I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, mama. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations in Oakland, plus they owned 40 acres of land. I was 8 years old walking through the hallway. About 10 o'clock at night, I felt someone touch me on my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, well, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to the state to get my reparations at the Senate, at the state capitol. She said, I believe you will. I believe you will. And then she said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying that whenever your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. Even a racist reader. I love Malcolm X, but we also love the movie Pulp Fiction. But Todd would tell me, don't look back because you don't have much backside back there. That's why I got to do more squats. I said, I love my backside, Todd, but I am doing more squats. You know, we love our favorite movie, Malcolm X, but we also love Pulp Fiction. He had Ben Rames, Bruce Willis, John Travolta, and also Bruce Willis. I love the boxing scene where Ben Rames told Bruce Willis, he said, sit down, boy. He said, your butt goes down in the 5th round. Sit up there. And he said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. And he told him that stinging sensation you're feeling, well, that's just pride flipping with you. And he said what Senator Bradford said to the people opposing him. He said, fuck pride. He said, pride only hurts. It never helps. He said, boxing is filled with a lot of unrealistic muddly buckets who think their butt gets better with time like fine wine. But it don't. In terms of vinegar, and then it does. He said, one day you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling in the Caribbean because we passed reparations. And he said, reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story. I'm taking with it. And then, I love your time with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors, and 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. I pray Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Daisy helped me set up the first interview for Big C Sports Podcast. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before until 2 black men in the crew did our thing. We deserve $100 million. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know it's true. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. You can be anything. You're amazing. You're intelligent. You're super fantastic. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, every night a good man. Malcolm, help you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. That no weapon formed against you will prosper. Malcolm, help me save trees. So you always get the newspapers and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went up. I've been Googling ever since, now on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say play Big C Sports. You see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And now it's streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Always give God praise. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn, and they talk faster than me. Sounding really good. Say you got to believe. You got to believe. You got to believe. Say, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. SB nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-bit teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I'm saying reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. That's my story. I love God with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. I love saying what I always say. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. Well, Dr. Martin Luther King and President Abraham Lincoln were listening today at the state Senate. And what will the Senate do? They'll sign reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. What are they going to do? They're going to sign reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. What are they going to do? They're going to sign reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.